Today I'm going to be sharing 3 of our favorite easy plant-based dinners. I wanted to select a few tried and true recipes that I have made countless times over the years, and recipes that have all been fully endorsed by my boyfriend James, who does eat meat, to show you guys that you can enjoy these meals whether you eat a plant-based diet or not. If you enjoy this video and you want to see more cooking content on my channel, please take a moment to let me know by leaving a thumbs up and a comment down below. I am really using that engagement to determine what kind of content I want to make on my channel moving forward. I get it, I'm a big time lurker on social media. I hardly comment on people's content, but that feedback really does help me out and I greatly appreciate it. I could literally turn this into a 20-part series if you guys are into it, so let me know, or just say hey if you've never commented on my videos. Let's get into it though. The first dinner is sticky sesame cauliflower wings. One of the reasons I love this recipe is that aside from the cauliflower and the optional green onions, it is all pantry staples. So it's an easy, no-brainer go-to addition to my meal plan when I am grocery shopping, and it's also a great option if you have a head of cauliflower in your fridge and you don't know what to do with it, because you probably have all the other ingredients lying around. And by the way, all of the full recipes mentioned today will be in the description box, so make sure you check that out. Okay, so the first step is going to be cutting up your cauliflower. I like to flip it upside down. I cut off all the green leafy bits, and then you can pretty easily just break off the natural sections. And then you can start cutting your cauliflower into florets. The trick here is to cut it small enough that it's going to cook all the way through, but you also don't want a million little pieces because we are going to be breading them. So if you have more pieces, the longer the recipe is going to take. And then we are going to mix the batter. This is just flour, oat milk, or you can use whatever plant-based milk you prefer, sea salt, black pepper, garlic powder, and red pepper flakes. Now here's a little tip anytime you are making cauliflower wings. Get your cauliflower in a bowl and then slowly pour the batter over it. Don't mix your batter in a bowl and then add the cauliflower in, because cauliflower obviously has lots of little nooks and crannies, and I find pouring it over you get a much more even batter. And then I go ahead and I just mix it up really well because the batter will be pooling at the bottom, and this just helps to get it really well coated. I mix it for probably like a minute straight. Then I'm filling up a separate bowl with panko breadcrumbs, and we are going to start coating our cauliflower wings. You can do this in batches, you know, 2 or 3 rounds at a time, but I find the panko just gets a little bit soggy, and there are a lot of breadcrumbs that won't end up sticking to the cauliflower, and a lot of it gets wasted. So I am doing it individually. It is a little bit time consuming, but the end result is so worth it. And I am wearing gloves here because I just absolutely hate the way this feels on my hands. Now that that's all done, these babies are going in the oven for 22 minutes at 450 degrees. While those are cooking, I'm going to make the sauce. It is maple syrup, soy sauce, sesame seeds, black pepper, ground ginger, and then I'm making a little cornstarch slurry, adding that in, and then also just thinning out the sauce with a little bit of water. I'm pouring this mixture into a small saucepan, bringing it to a light simmer, letting it thicken up from that cornstarch. You do have to be careful and keep a close eye on this because it will burn quickly from the maple syrup. Once it's thickened, you reduce the heat and take it off the burner. And I also took this opportunity to chop up the green onions for our garnish. These are from our garden, and yes, I am very proud. This is what they look like coming out of the oven. I know they do look a little sad. You can spray them with oil if you want like a more even, crispy golden appearance, but trust me when I say they are nice and crispy and crunchy. And then I'm just pouring the sauce mixture over the cauliflower wings. I do this in 2 batches, and I just give them a good toss to get them evenly coated. This was a really large head of cauliflower, so I probably could have even doubled the sauce recipe to get just a slightly better coating. It ended up being okay. I feel like they were definitely saucy enough, but it just took a lot of mixing to get them to that point. And here is a look at the finished cauliflower wings. You get that perfect tender cauliflower on the inside with that crispy, sticky, and sweet breadcrumb coating on the outside. These are absolutely delicious. And if the sesame soy maple combination isn't really your thing, you can substitute this with pretty much whatever sauce you want. It's really versatile. Now I know some people might not consider this a full meal. My perception is a little bit skewed as someone who grew up vegetarian because I'm used to eating something most people would call a side as my main course, but I promise you this is really filling and satisfying. But if you want to throw in some rice, tofu, a side salad, do what you gotta do. Dinner number 2 is a Thai inspired butternut squash curry. I think this is literally one of the first meals I made 6 years ago, 7 years ago when I first moved in with James, and it has been in our regular rotation ever since. So here's an overview of everything you will need. I did prep the butternut squash ahead of time because this was no joke the biggest butternut squash I have ever seen, and it took forever. I'm starting off by dicing up my shallots, and then I'm adding a tablespoon of coconut oil into a hot pan, adding the shallots and letting those cook just until they're a little bit translucent. Then I'm grating some fresh ginger directly into the pan. This is a little bit hard to tell because it's a little bit overexposed, but that is a little knob of ginger. And then I am adding the red curry paste. Curry paste and curry sauces are an ingredient you need to be careful with if you are eating a plant-based or vegan diet, because a lot of them do contain fish sauce. So I'm showing the brand that I'm using here on screen. I also really like the red curry paste from Thai Kitchen. If you can find that one, it is vegan. This one's a little spicier and the Thai Kitchen is a little more mild, so it's just kind of your personal preference. After heating up that mixture, I am dumping in all of our butternut squash and just kind of stirring that to get it coated in the curry paste a little bit. Then I'm adding a can of coconut milk. I've shown this brand before. I absolutely love it. It's super cheap, and as you can see, it is super thick. It is mostly coconut cream. I'm also adding veggie broth. I did a bit more than the recipe called for because once again, this squash was huge. Then I'm just tossing in a little bit of white sugar, mixing this all together. Once it comes to a simmer, I'm going to drop down the heat and cover it up, and we're going to let that simmer for about 20 minutes or so until the butternut squash is nice and tender. While we wait on that, I am making a pot of coconut rice. Yes, I'm making it in a pot that is way too small. Listen, sometimes I want to be a little bit chaotic. It gets the job done, you know. Does it boil over? Yeah, just a little bit. I took this opportunity to prepare our garnishes. I'm slicing a lime, slicing up some cilantro, and also some peanuts. Once the curry is cooked through, I'm just adding a few generous handfuls of fresh spinach, and you just want to mix that in lightly until the spinach is just wilted, and then it is ready to serve. Okay, here's my life-changing hack for coconut rice. This might be something everybody already knows, but I like to top my coconut rice with sweetened shredded coconut. It has to be sweetened because there's something with the way the sugar and the coconut reacts on top of the warm rice. It just has like the perfect texture. And we're just finishing this curry off with our chopped cilantro and peanuts and a nice squeeze of lime. This curry is so good left over as well, and with a squash this big, we have at least 4 generous portions left over, so we can pack it into James's lunches for the week. You can use frozen butternut squash, but just keep in mind the higher moisture content will change the texture a little bit. I find it does tend to be a bit softer and mushier, especially when you are reheating the leftovers, so just keep that in mind. I would recommend a fresh butternut squash if you can find it, especially moving into autumn when it is going to be in season. This is definitely great in the colder months, but honestly, it's a favorite year-round whenever you want like that cozy, comforting, satisfying curry. And our final dinner is Dragon Boat lettuce wraps. If you live in Western Canada and you've been to Original Joe's, then you might recognize the name. This is a restaurant copycat recipe, and it is like spot on. But for the majority of you who haven't eaten at OJ's, this is a crisp, fresh, Thai-inspired chicken lettuce wrap. Another ingredient overview. Once again, this recipe definitely calls for the most ingredients, but I promise it is still really simple. I'm starting off by cooking my plant-based chicken tenders. This isn't a necessary step. It depends on what brand you are using. I actually don't love these ones from Light Life, but my favorite ones from Tofurky seem to have disappeared off the face of the planet, so that's kind of a bummer. But I'm just frying these in a little bit of oil just to get them like a little bit crispy. Then we are prepping the rest of our veggies. I'm just starting by cutting off the bottom of a heart of romaine. These are going to be our lettuce boats. I'm also dicing up a white onion, and I'm dicing up a few bell peppers. The recipe calls for just 1 bell pepper, I believe, but I typically do split this into 2 portions because James does like to add regular chicken to his. So I tend to just kind of bulk up the recipe a little bit and do a little bit more of everything. I'm chopping up our carrots as well. You can grate carrots if you don't want to buy the pre-julienned matchstick carrots. Then you're going to saute your onions just until they're a little bit translucent, and then at the end I am adding in just some freshly minced garlic and grated ginger. Just stir frying that once again for a couple minutes until they are nice and aromatic. Next I'm adding the bell peppers and carrots into the mixture, once again just letting those saute up a little bit, and then I'm adding the diced up Light Life chicken. While we wait on that, I'm making our sauce. This is basically just a ton of hoisin, some Thai chili ginger sauce, a little bit of soy sauce, lime zest, lime juice, and red pepper flakes, and then doing a nice careful mix because once again I chose a container that was too small. And taking this opportunity to prepare our garnishes once again, I'm chopping up some cashews. I'm taking dry chow mein noodles and placing them in a bag, and then I just use something heavy to break them up, and more cilantro. Once the bell peppers and carrots are tender and the chicken is crisping up a little bit more, I am adding the sauce to the pan, and we are just going to let this simmer, let it thicken up and reduce, and just coat all of this goodness. Now, I personally like to add the dried chow mein noodles when the pan is still pretty hot. I find if I add them right at the very end, the texture just isn't great. They're like a little too crunchy, not the best mouthfeel, so I like to let them soften up just a little bit, but not too much, so they still add a good crunch. Finishing this off with green onions and some of the cilantro, and then removing from the heat. To plate, I'm scooping this mixture directly onto some romaine leaves that I picked, adding more cilantro, some of those chopped cashews. You can also add more lime juice if you want, some sriracha, whatever your preference is. And then they are ready to eat. Bon appetit, as they say. The filling is also so delicious left over, like cold out of the fridge the next day. You can cut up more romaine and make more lettuce boats. You can have it as a salad. I honestly just eat it straight out of the container with a fork most of the time because it is that good. Perfect dinner for the summertime. It also pairs really well with citrusy beverages like a citrusy white wine or a citrusy cocktail like a gin smash. Delicious. That's going to be it for today's video. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. I had a ton of fun filming this. Once again, I can make this like a huge series if you're into it. If you want to see some plant-based breakfast, lunch, whatever, I can definitely do more of these. So please let me know by giving this a thumbs up and leaving me a comment. Or if you hated it, leave me a thumbs down. That's all good too. But go follow me on social media. I'm at SariReanna absolutely everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I've been really active on TikTok lately. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe if you are new. That's going to be it for today. I will talk to you in the next one. Bye guys.